Jake Shapiro, Chase Howell, BuffStampede practice analysis after Colorado Buffaloes. It's fall practice. It's the same thing as football, basically, except it actually happens in the fall. Fall practice number 2. Expectations for this team absolutely sky high here on Sox-Wallseth Court. Couple changes to the team, including the fact that they've gone some advanced statistics and analytics counting with some things on their shoes, which is interesting and we'll get into throughout the year on BuffStampede. But I think the biggest thing that everyone is noticing is McKinley Wright is healthy and Deshaun Schwartz looks like an absolute hog.
Yeah, I think you said it best when you were talking over there, that he looked like a guard last season. He's come in this offseason, now this preseason, and looks like a legitimate forward. He can play the 3 and the 4. I think for this team, he's that big now.
So you've got such a strong front court for this group, and I think that's the most impressive part. You've also got a new front court coach in Anthony Coleman, and it seems like that relationship is going well within the program. Obviously, it's already had an impact on recruiting.
Yeah, it has definitely had an impact on recruiting. We already see Keyshawn Bartholomew here. CU coaches are very excited about him. He's been impressive the first 2 practices. Obviously, he's still learning a lot, learning the system, learning how to play defense. They don't ever make these high school studs play defense while they're in high school, and it's always interesting to see them when they get here. But yeah, he's obviously had an impact on recruiting already. We'll see how he does with this front court, but I think this is a pretty good front court. We know that they're 4 deep already. We saw that last year, but I think they've added a couple guys. Frank Ryder, I think, will get in the mix, and then we will see about Jakob Dombeck, but I think he can get in there too.
And the name no one's talking about is Alexander Strading, and he got some good minutes last year, but you kind of hinted at it. Dallas Walton is healthy. We saw him in his bionic knee brace. He's made fun of it. Evan Batty turned 21 yesterday. So this is a veteran group now, full of guys with experience. I talked to Lucas Seward today. And I think that one of the things no one's talked about is I really believe that the fact that the 3-point line has moved back is going to help this Colorado Buffaloes team, because it's going to make it harder to play zone against them. And they legitimately will not shoot as bad from 3-point range as they did last year. Like, it's not possible. like mark this down. And if it happens, like, I'm an idiot, which I already am, but like.
Yeah, I mean, Tad Boyle's on the rules committee, so you know that he made a big push to move that back, and I think it's really good for college basketball. I think it was a little bit too short. They're going to the NIT distance, the more Euro distance. It's not quite the NBA length yet, but I do think it'll help space the floor a little bit. Obviously, we talked about their front court, but they have some shooters too. We just didn't get to see much of it last year. Deshaun Schwartz picked up his shooting ability later in the season. Shane Gatling, I think, will be a much improved shooter this year, and even Maddox Daniels, who they brought in as the JUCO, can really shoot the ball too. So they have some 3-point shooters. We just haven't seen it yet.
What have you really keyed in on the first 2 days of practice? Anything stand out to you?
Well, I just think the way that Tad is talking to this team, because we've come to practices last 3 years, and it's a little bit different. I think this team has some leaders that he's able to rely on a little bit more. He doesn't have to be that motivator guy. I think he has guys like Evan Batty, who we saw yelling at guys in obviously a positive manner like Evan does, and McKinley Wright getting into it as well. Those types of guys on his team, I think, are helping him a lot, and I think that's probably been the most impressive part of the first 2 practices for me.
Evan Batty, positive, breaking news, right?
You're right.
Maddox Daniels, anything that stood out to you about him? Because I've seen him play. I've been to a couple more practices over the summer than you have. His shot, really nice. I've been talking about that James Harden-esque step back. He's got a big gather on that shot, but still a quick release somehow. He creates space for himself, but there are some questions about his defense.
Yeah, and I think you laid it out perfectly there. He has great form on his shot. I think that's probably been the most impressive part for me. He obviously has an ability to shoot the 3-point ball, and on the defensive side, I think he definitely has the frame to do it. He has the long arms, he has the size, he can clearly move out here. I think it's just a matter of learning how to play defense, which is just something that
again, a lot of guys come in here, they don't need to play defense
Right.
until they get to this level. And some of them are so good they don't need to play defense at this level either, really. But yeah.
But they'll learn if they come to see you, because Tad just stresses the hell out of it.
Yep. You ask any of the people that are in the NBA right now, and they'll think Tad, because it's been an easier transition for them. The expectations for this team are obviously very high. They've been kind of trying to push them down a little bit, I don't want to say push them down, I want to say push them back, because I think internally they are going through the same thought process that a lot of fans are right now. They know how good they are, but they don't want to get ahead of themselves.
Yeah, I think I said it yesterday in my piece that they're not shying away. They're not acting like the expectations aren't there. They are clearly there, but they're trying to put them on the back burner, trying to make them not as talked about. But even McKinley Wright said yesterday that it's something that they obviously see. They are on Twitter every day. They see the polls. They see the Pac-12 hype, the Pac-12 Player of the Year hype.
And they want that. You want that. You want to be talked about. And quite honestly, I've covered a lot of TAD teams. And when TAD knows the expectation for his team better than anyone, and he'll say it publicly. That year they had Derek White and George King. He was telling everyone we're not as good as everyone thinks we are. He was saying that straight out, and everyone said, we don't believe you. And guess what? TAD was right. So if they are better than people think, TAD will say, we're better than people think. If they're what we think, TAD will say that. And pretty much TAD's going, let's just not talk about it, which means you guys probably nailed our team, but we want to get up to that level.
It is interesting. Evan Batty was asked if he'd rather be the hunter or the hunted yesterday, and he obviously said the hunter. I think that's how a lot of people feel, especially if you're an athlete. That's how you get motivated. But they're going to be the hunted this year. They're going to have a little bit of a different mindset. They know that they have a target on their back, and we'll see how they react to that.
Well, as you know, the Buffaloes are used to being targeted out throughout the Great Plains of North America, and they've survived. So we'll see how well this Colorado Buffaloes basketball team does throughout the year. Chase and I will periodically do these videos as we both make it to practice. And stay tuned to Buff Stampede for all of our coverage on all things CU athletics. Thanks for tuning in.